If you are solving Behemoth Labs, I'm assuming that you have already completed Narnia challenges from OverTheWire. Narnia and Behemoth are quite similar, I would say, but Narnia has the source code and Behemoth does not have the source code. And that's the only difference between these two. And the difficulty level has increased from 2 to 3. Let's get started and see what we have. And you should also notice that if you go to any level, you do not have any information whatsoever regarding that particular level. Okay, so this was made intentionally, so we cannot do anything about it. So click on this Behemoth, and the only information that we have are the usernames Behemoth 0, Behemoth 1, and so on, and the server, which is behemoth.labs.overthewire.org, and the port number. Using these values, let's construct an SSH command. SSH Behemoth 0 at the server and the port 2221. So let's copy this. Let's go back to terminal and paste it and hit enter. So it will ask for a password, and the password is Behemoth 0. So copy, paste, and hit enter. So now we have logged in to the server as Behemoth 0 user, and data for these levels can be found at /Behemoth. So let's copy it and cd to that, and let's clear everything and say ls. Okay, we have bunch of files and say ls-l, and we have files and the file permissions and the authorized users. So as you all know, this first column refers to the user column and the second column refers to the group column. So if this user has to execute it, so he cannot be a Behemoth 1. So this user has to be part of Behemoth 0 group. Only then he can execute this file. So let's check if he is in Behemoth 0 group. Yes, he is in Behemoth 0 group. So because of this, he can execute this file. So here you can see S, which means set UID permissions. When Behemoth 0 executes like this, he temporarily becomes Behemoth 1 and comes back to Behemoth 0 after the execution is completed. So let's try to execute this file and type password. Access denied. So let's see strings of this file. So these are like standard headers, so ignore them. We have some functions, string compare function, get effect user ID function, and memprop function. So we'll check what these functions are later, and a few more libraries, and we have some data over here. And then just after this data, we have password, which means one of these can be the password. So let's check. Control Shift C to copy Behemoth 0. Let's paste this password and hit enter. Access denied. So let's check the other one. We have follow the white rabbit. Control C, Control V. Hit enter and access denied. So let's see the other one. Unix is better than Windows. Hit enter and still nothing. So let's check these things. So these did not give successful results. So these seems to be some random characters. We'll deal about these later. So let's check ltrace. So ltrace is a library tracer. It will trace all the functions which are executed by this program and tries to interact with the functions which try to interact with the system. So if I hit enter, so this library function is started, and when this starts, the main function actually starts. And then we have a print function, and it just prints out this content, which is password. And now we have scanf function, which receives some data from us. Like this, all functions are intercepted by this ltrace. Hit enter, and as you can see, we have this thing called string length, and we also have some string comparison with our input. And it is trying to compare this with this, and since this is not equals to this, access is denied. So what if this equals to this? So let's copy this. Let's execute that again and right click, paste it, and hit enter. And as you can see, access granted, and we got the effective user ID, and we have 13,000 as the effective user ID. So 13,000 is the same as this, right? So we are still Behemoth 0, we are not Behemoth 1. Why? Because we use the command ltrace. So ltrace and then the file name. So when we used ltrace, we are just executing this command as Behemoth 0. So if I check ID, I'm still Behemoth 0. So I'll just exit out of here and I'll say which L trace. I have this L trace. So if I type ls-l and L trace, user as root, group as root. And you might think only if the user is root or group is root, this file can be executed. But you have to see this column which is for others as well. So others can also execute. And there are no setuid permissions so that it will temporarily become root. So when this user execute ltrace, the same permissions will be given to that user. Removing ltrace, if we try to execute Behemoth 0 and paste this EatMyShorts, let's see what happens. Here you can see access granted and the shell. So now if I type ID, I get 13,001 Behemoth 1. So now the effective user ID is same as the set user ID, which is Behemoth 1. So using this, I can create a shell if I want. I can go to bash shell if I want, or else I can directly execute the cat command to get the key to the next level. So etc behemoth underscore path behemoth 1. So how do I know this path? Because it is the same syntax for Narnia and Natus, and so you can also guess that behemoth underscore path is the file. So if you don't want to guess it, you can use the find command, find /, which means you have to find everything, and type is equal to file, and the name of the file is behemoth1. Send all the errors to /dev/null. And as you can see, you got this file. So you can just cat this file and you'll get the answer. So if you want to learn how to solve this in any other method, you can use something like pound debugger. So the Discord channel of OverTheWire has this pound debugger commands. So all these commands are given by the admin, which allows you to use pound debugger. So I added this last command because I was not able to run the pound debugger. So I just added this line so that now I was able to run pound debugger in my Linux machine. So I just paste it right here and hit enter. So now I am able to run pound debugger commands. So how to use that pound debugger? So you say pound debugger and behemoth 0 and hit enter. So just hit enter and it says whatever. So hit enter. So it says loaded 166 pound debugger commands, 47 shell commands, and so on. So the first step you do is disassemble main. So you're disassembling the main function. So hit enter and it will give this dump, and you can check all these things. And whenever you see some string compare or some extra functions which are very new like memfrop, you have to analyze those areas. For example, if I want to analyze this string compare, so I would say this location, let's just copy this, Control C, and you say break asterisk that location, which means you're keeping a breakpoint in that location. So when you run that behemoth 0, it will just stop at this location. So when you just run it, it will ask for a password, and when you give a password, it will just block at that location. Okay, so currently it's saying its current location is this, which is main plus 123. As you can see, main plus 123 is string compare, right? So when it stops at this location, it will try to analyze the registers, it will try to do some disassembly here, and it will also give us the stack. So here it is trying to compare this with this, and rest of the things are ignored. So this has to be the other part of string compare. So using this, you can actually execute this file again, paste this thing, hit enter, and it stopped again. So you say continue, and as you can see, when you say continue, it says it started a new program user bin dash. So it was able to execute some shell, right? With this clue, you just exit it, go back and execute behemoth 0 and EatMyShorts, and you get the shell. So you might be asking, is there any other way? So there is. So again, go back to pound debugger and say disassemble main, and if you scroll up, you'll see memfrop. So let's try to analyze what memfrop is. Let's give a horizontal tab and say man memfrop. So this is the manual for memfrop. So let's scroll down. Okay, so the description says this function obfuscates the first n bytes of the memory by exclusive ORing, which means XORing basically, XOR. Okay, I'm just writing it for notes. This is not a command, so I'll better write it in notes. So XOR. So XOR each character with the number 42. So just copy this, XOR with 42. So this is all it does. Let's quit and exit out of here. So now what we will do is, we have this location. So you can just copy this location, or you can say main plus 107. So let's use this break at main plus 107. Okay, so it will just show that location, and now just run it, give some random characters, and now as you can see the memfrob has this as its input. So what happens if we do XOR with 42? So which means this XOR 42. So the symbol for XOR is actually this. So it might be confusing, so I wrote XOR, XOR. So how do we XOR this? So copy this, go to CyberChef and paste your input here, XOR, and paste that XOR here, and here we have the key. So as per instructions, we should not use hex, we should use decimal number 42. So do you see what happened? It just gave out EatMyShorts. So using this, you try to use that password as this and try to execute, and you'll get the solution. So if you cannot understand how the code is executed, so then try to visualize it using the tool R2. So R2 is also called radar2. So its spelling is RADARE2. So this is used for reverse engineering tasks. So we can visualize using R2. So how to use this? You say R2 and Behemoth 0, and once you are inside this file, so you can type AAAA. It will analyze this file very intensively. Just hit enter and it says analyzing everything, and so on, right? And now you say analyze all the functions and list them. So this is what AFL means, analyze all the functions and list them. Hit enter and it just lists out all the executing functions. So this is the main function, these are just libraries, and this is the entry point. So as you can see, this address is the same as this address. So now you can say select the main function. So we have the main function over here. So you can select function main. So now the address is changed from here to here. So now I can say print a disassemble function of main. So it will just disassemble and it will try to give some arrows to mention, like this is where the function is starting, this is where the function is ending, and so on. So to visualize this, keep two capital V's. So this will extensively visualize. Just hit enter and now you can see, and if there is an if condition, if it is true, it will jump here. If it is false, it will go to the left side. So this is just an image, so you cannot just copy paste from here. So here if you see, it will compare this string, and once the string comparing is done, when it is true, it will just go here, and if it is false, it will just go to this location and it will give access to our shell. And once it is done, once we are out of that shell or out of this access denied function, so both will again come back to this location, and once it is true, it go to this side, once it is false, it goes to this side. So this is how you use R2 to visualize the program. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.